Welcome to the second session of SuperMap JS training camp. And as always, we'll first have a quick review on previous quiz, and then we will come back to our topics today. So in our last session, we have learned basic procedure for map making and layout design in SuperMap iDesktopX. And so in this week, we will introduce you more advanced skills in map making and layout design to improve the final two, so that we can improve the final output of your map. And also, besides, we will give you a quick introduction on the advanced application of web map as well. So now let's see the more detailed content of today's session. So in the first part, I will first introduce you to a new skill, that is to control our map content based on the skill. So on the same map, as you zoom in and zoom out, the content shown on the map should change so that to improve the performance of the map, and it's easier for your audience to read the map as well. And then we will also introduce you a very simple, useful tool that is called AI mapping. So with that, you can easily change or transform the style of your map, basically the color pattern of your map, simply by one click. And so in the first part, we would do a demo as well to demonstrate all the skills we just introduced you. And so we will save that. And in the second part, we will use that map to design a layout with more elements, such as inset map and statistical diagrams. And after that, that's all you need to know about how to create map, and that's all you need to know about how to create map and layouts in the software. And then I will introduce you about the application of digital map in WebGIS. So that would be a hint for you on how your project can be presented to the others through the internet. And so now let's get started. So in previous session, I think you should be very familiar. After we have go through all the sessions, I think there's one thing that should be very clear to you, is that the map you created is actually a combination of multiple layers for different features. And so the organization of your layers should have an influence on the final appearance of your map. So you should have a proper organization of them. And so there are two principles or rules for a proper organization of the layers. So the first one is very simple and straightforward, that you should have a correct layer order, so that to clearly show the features and the information you want to present it. And then you should design the visible scale of your layers, so that, as we said before, as the audience of your digital map zoom in or zoom out, they can see different content. And so it's more informative. And now let's have a more detailed explanation on this too. First is layer order. So maybe I have mentioned some of the principles about layer order in previous sessions. That is to say, from the top to bottom, our layers should be, the layer order should be text, point layer, and line layer, and then finally the layer for polygon features. That is quite simple and easy, and you would find that it is common that when you are doing a project, usually you would have multiple layers of polygon features in your map, and so you should also have design a proper order for all the polygon layers as well. And so here, I would suggest you to put all the layers of polygon features with relatively small area on the top of the other polygon layers, and then put the polygon layer with relatively larger scale, a larger area at the bottom, so that those larger area won't overlay on those small area polygons, and the readers can easily find the small but important polygons once they look at your map. And then the next principle is about the visible skills. As we have said in cartography principle, that the content of your map is decided by your map skill. And if you're only making a map that is going to be printed on paper, then the scale of the map is fixed. So what content should be presented on that map is fixed as well. You don't have to have further consideration on it. But as you know, nowadays, most of us would use digital map. And if you share your digital map with the others, then they would open the digital map on their computer as well, and so that they can zoom in and zoom out. And now we need to control the content at different skills so that it is easy for them to read the map. And once they zoomed into a very small area, they can get more information if they want. So controlling this visible scale of your layers would give you the benefits to improve your map readability and the performance. And here are some suggestions on what content you should show on different scale. For instance, at small scale, which means we're presenting a very large area that is to show general information of your study area. In that case, you only need to show the very basic background information of your project, and then highlight the most significant output of your work, so that it's very concise and clear. And then at a large scale, which means when the audience zoom in at the map to focus on a specific area, then you can give them more information, and also at the same time highlight the important output at the same as well. So here I have an example of how to control your map content according to scale. So on the first map, you can see that this is a map at a very small scale. So we only show the boundaries of the study area, and then we overlay the those residential areas, residential polygons on it. So it's very clear. And then as we zoom in on this map, we can give our readers more information, like the railroad, the roads, and also rivers. And if we further move to a very large scale, and now at this time, we're not only to show them all the features, but we can also make the labels for each of the for some of the features visible, so that they can get more detailed information. If we didn't control the map content according to the scale, then all those labels and features will cluster together at this very small scale, and it's very hard or even impossible for the others to read the map. So that a skill you are going to keep in mind, and we will try to do so later. And then, as we have said, all the content of our map, the other thing that you often need to consider when making your maps, is what color you should use for different features. And then as you combine those features, as you put those features or layers in one map window, would they look very coherent with each other? So basically, those confusions is about how to make a visually pleasant map, or maybe you will be hesitant about which style you need to choose for your map. Like, should it be a dark style or a colorful style? Which one? If you want to compare these two styles together, if you want to compare these two styles, the traditional way you are going to do is to create a map in dark style, and then create a colorful map then create a map in colorful style step by step, and that will take a lot of time and effort. And so to tackle those confusions, we have provided you with a tool that is called AI mapping. So AI mapping is quite simple. Here we just use AI algorithms to help us find the best color for the best color patterns, the best color scheme or color patterns for our home for the home map, so that won't change the content of the layer or the order of the layer, but it can automatically change the style you set for each of your layer for each of the layers based on a reference map or a reference picture that you provided. And it's easy to change the color assigned to the whole map as well. So here, let me show you some examples. So here, the first one, you can see that the original map on the left, it is a map that uses uniform style, and then we can use two reference map here, a reference picture here, as you can see, and based on each of these reference picture, AI mapping could automatically assign colors to different layers, so that to make the color scheme of the whole map similar to the color scheme of the reference of these reference pictures. And it only takes you one click to change the style of this map, so it's quite easy. And if you are making a if you are using semantic layers, it's AI mapping still works. Like here, you can see that we have a semantic layer on this map, and once we introduce our reference pictures to AI mapping tool, it can automatically change the color used for the semantic layer, as well as the color of other background information layers at the same time. And so that will save you a lot of time and effort to design to find a beautiful color design for your map. And then finally, there is a very small detail about your, and there is a very small detail. Oh, sorry. Let me pause for a second. So now everyone, can you see my screen? Either you can or cannot just let me know from the chatting box. Okay, so maybe there's some internet interruption on some of our participants. So it's okay. Later on, you can check. Okay, if you have some connection problem, it's okay. Later, we would share the playback of our session on YouTube. So don't worry if you miss part of it. And so now let's continue. So here, maybe some of you might be noticed that if you zoomed really close to a feature, and sometimes you can see the selection in lines, like we shown in the picture on the left. It is not quite clear, but sometimes it's just look not that appealing. So that is not that is not a bug of the software. It's just that it's just caused by the display of your screen, and we can easily avoid it by click line anti-aliasing. And so just by one click, we can easily improve how those lines are drawn on the screen. And it's similar for our text. It's similar for our text layer or our labels on map. So here you can also find a comparison of picture on the left and the picture on the right. So to avoid such distortion in our text feature, you can also simply click the text anti-aliasing anti-aliasing checkbox, and then the software will automatically improve how the text feature looks like on your screen. And we will try to do that later as well. So now let's come to our first demo. So in this demo, we're going to use the data and the result we created in the third session, that is for Hakka-centric case in Singapore. And so today we have provided you both the result data set of this project, and also a workspace connected to the data set, and so that you can simply use the basic map the base map we already provided to you, and so improve its appearance according to what I just introduced to you. Like we can change its map orders so that we won't miss any information on this map. And then, as we have used a lot of data for this project, and when we're presenting it to the others using digital map, we need to control its content based on the scale. And finally, we can use AI mapping to improve the layer styling and the appearance of the whole map, and also avoid distortion of our features and tags as well. So now, now if you haven't opened SuperMap iDesktopX, you can open it now, and then at the same time, I will give you a quick look at the data we provided to you for today's session. So go to materials for today's session, and you can see that inside the material, we have these five files here. So the first one is a folder that is called reference picture. That is the picture we provided to you as a reference picture when we are using AI mapping. And if you prefer to use your own picture, it's okay. Just in case you can't find you can't find a beautiful picture immediately, so we provided those reference. And then this is slides for today's session. And so here we have a workspace that is called Hawker-centric case. We can use SuperMap iDesktopX to open it, and the data source is already connected to this to this workspace. And later we can see it. And finally, we have a text file for metadata, which you can add to your final layout. So now let's open SuperMap iDesktopX. And so because we have provided you with a workspace file, so this time when not going to connect the data source, we'll directly open that workspace. So you can go to Workspace Manager and select Untitled Workspace and right-click on it, and then select Open File Workspace. And now navigate to Materials for today's session and select Hawker-centric case. Then click Open. And once you open it, you can see that our data source, Singapore, is already connected to it. And we can see we have all these data sets inside it. And also under Maps, we have already created a base map for you, but we haven't completed all the work for creating this map. So now we will do some some tasks to improve the performance of this map. So you can double click on it or right click, choose Open Map to open this map. And now I have opened it. Your map should just look like mine now at the screen. And here you can see we have added all the basic information for the Singapore project into this map. And now we're making land use layer invisible because, as we said in previous session, this is a very detailed data set and has a lot of features in it. If we make it visible all the time, it will take a lot of resources, and it's hard to zoom in or zoom out or pan in this map window. So we will simply make it invisible just for now. And then we need to improve this map. So the first thing we need to check is its map order. And as we can see, now it puts two polygon layers on the very top in this map. And so they overlay on our point features and line features. That's not what we want. So we will first select these two layers and drag them to the bottom so that now we can see all these point and line symbols. And then you can see that now we have all these, we have 4 polygon layers here. And as we said before, we want to put those with small features on the top. And so row station, that one is very tiny polygon content. That one contains very tiny polygon features. So we will put it on top. And then the land use layer, as we said before, this is also a very detailed data set. So we will keep it as the second layer. And then the sample layer is smaller than the planning area layer. So it's okay to keep all these orders of them. And so now we have a proper organization of the layer orders. And the next step is to control the content of control the content of this map. As we said before, the first thing we need to do might be to control the visible skill of land use. But before we do that, now let's have a look at all the data sets that is visible now. And we can see that because now we have hawk centuries and supermarkets at the same time, and they contain a lot of points. And so now at the full extent of our map, it is a little clustered for those point features. And also, actually, we don't have to see all this detailed information about hawk centuries and supermarkets and at this very small scale as well. So we can change their visible scale as well. And also for our subzones and planning area. Now we can see if we make subzones invisible. Now here you're seeing the layer of planning area. And these two layers actually has the same extent, but if we make subzones visible again, you can see subzone is much more detailed. So maybe we can see we can make subzone visible at a relatively larger scale, and at the very small scale, we only need to show planning area. So that's all our plan. So that's all our plan for those. That's all our plan for this for the visible scale for these layers. And some of you just noticed the order between hawk centuries and supermarkets. It's okay because as you zoomed in, actually they are not overlaid with each other, and both of these two are point layers. So it's okay either one on the top. And so now let's just set the visible scale for each of this layer. To do so, you need to go to layer manager, and under it, here is a button called layer control. We can click on it and click on layer control. Here we have opened layer control window, and you can see that as we select on each of this layer, here under display control, we can set the minimum visible scale and maximum visible scale for that layer at the same time. And to set it, here you can refer to our slides, and here just go down. So here for the slides of layer control based on scale, so here you have a table. We have a table that's my design for the minimal visible scale of all the layers and the maximal visible scale for them. So you can use this as a reference to set to control the content of your map. So here I will control those visible scales as well. So first, for the planning area, so we only want to see it at a very large scale. So we need to set the maximum visible scale for it. We can choose from a list to set it as 1 divided by 20,000, or you can simply type in if you want. And here for the subzone, we can here we would set its minimal visible scale the same as the maximum visible scale of planning area. So we can simply copy it and paste it as the minimum visible scale for our subzone layer, and then set its maximum visible scale as 1 to 10,000, and click Enter on your keyboard. And then for this land use layer, we would set it minimum visible scale, the same as the maximum visible scale for subzone, that is 1 to 10,000. So copy it and paste it here. And also now, as we have set it, now we can make this layer visible. Just click on the little eye icon on the very left of this layer. And then for real station and real line, we don't need to change their visible scale. And for the supermarkets, we will set its minimum visible scale as 1 to 1,000, 1 to 10,000 as well. And for hawker centuries, this is a more important feature. So we will set its minimum visible scale as 1 to 5,000. 1 to 50,000, sorry. And then, as we have set all the visible skills for this for those layers, simply click OK. And now you can see that at the full extent, we can only see the planning area and the railroad and the rail line and rail stations. And as we zoom in, now we can see subzones and our hawker centuries. And if we further zoom in, now we can see detailed land use layer and our supermarkets. So is there anything wrong with the screen? Okay, fine. So I will wait for a few seconds. And just remember, we're using layer control window to control all those, all the visible skills for each of the layer. And so then our next step, here you can see that we have the very detailed layer of land use visible. And as you all know, we have a lot of categories for land use. And so for this kind of data, really, we would like to show the category differences to our audience so that they can easily tell which features belongs to which category. So that is asked us to make a unique thematic layer for land use. And so to do that, first we need to select land use layer in Layer Manager and right click on it, and then choose Create Thematic Map. And so here we would simply create a unique values map, use the default style and click OK. And now we need to, on the right, it automatically opens the window of thematic mapping, and we need to make this window larger so that we can change the unique value expression. So here we would use the field that is called land use description and simply click on it. And now you can see this is the default style for this kind of semantic map. But we'll just keep it for now. And then you can see that although we have set the visible scale for land use map, for land use layer, but now as we have created a new semantic layer from it, so here you can tell from the little icon on the very left of it and compare it to the icon of land use. And so there means a line for it. So that means for this semantic layer, we're not controlling the visible scale for it. So now we would make that change. Now we will open layer control window again. And now as we select land use, the semantic layer for land use, we can see that now there's no settings for its visible scale. And so here we would change its visible scale the same as that of land use layer. So that is 1 to 10,000. And click OK. And now if we zoom out, the semantic layer is invisible. If we zoom in, now we can see it. And then we can directly remove the ordinary map for land use. And click OK. And now, as you can see, we have about 7 layers in this map. And one of them is a semantic layer for a large amount of categories. So it would be hard for us, like, not hard, it's just time consuming for us to set the style for each of them, especially if you want to design the detailed style for each of those categories. So here I will show you the simple and quick way to change the style of the whole map using AI mapping. So here on the very top of the software, you can find that here's a tab called AI mapping, and click on it. And so you can see on the left, here is some template map we provided to you, that if you click on one of them, here now the style of your current map window would simply change to the style you just choose here, and you can simply zoom in or zoom out a little in your map window to refresh the whole map. And now you can see its style just changed to this default style template here. And now if you want to change it to another style, here on the left bottom of this map window, you can click on select. And now it would open a window for you to choose the reference picture or reference map you want to use for this map. So here I'll randomly change one of them, and you can make your own choice. Like you click open. It would take a while for the software to read in your reference picture. And here, once you can see that on the small window at the bottom left, if the image in the small window at the bottom left has changed, that means the style of your map has changed. You can zoom in or zoom out a little for reference to refresh it. And now Here we can see generally is a dark style. If you have questions on this operation, you can raise your questions in the chatting box or Q&A. And so now I don't like this dark style, so I will change it to another one. So now I can zoom in to check how all the features looks like. That looks okay. I'll keep that one. And also, once you have like now, if you want to do some adjustment based on this current style created by AI mapping, you can also here under the tab of AI mapping on the right or just in the center, you can find that here is a group of tools that is called Map Color Fixer. Now, if you click on hue, for example, now on the top left, it will open a very small window for you to adjust the hue or brightness, contrast, saturation of this whole map of all of the style of the overall style for of the overall color style for this map. And you can make your own choice. And just to notice, even though maybe some of you have choose the same reference map as I did, your map won't look completely the same as mine, because every time you select a reference map or reference picture, the tool will randomly choose some color for different features. So there might be a slight differences, but it's okay. You can, as it's very simple and quick to make those changes. So you can change it for a lot of times. Oh, sorry. Okay, now I'm happy with my map. So here's only one last thing we need to do to improve it. As we said, we need to avoid all the possible distortion for our map for over the layer. And if we refer back to our slides, here you can see that there's two steps to avoid those distortions. The first one is you need to set the properties of your map. That is to say, you need to go to the Maps tab, and on the very right, you can see here is a group that is called Property, and under it, first, let's choose Map Properties. And once we open it, now you can see under the Basic tab, and here at the bottom, we have a lot of settings for the map performance. Like we can set a fixed angle for our text, and also we can set like anti-aliasing or text anti-aliasing. Now we haven't checked it, and here you can see if you see very close, sorry, if you see very close to observe the edge of these features on my map, you can see there are some distortions at those edges. Even though if we zoom in, you can see that not only did the shape, not only are there distortions in its own shapes, but if we look at those lines, here are some little serrations on those lines. And so now we need to check line anti-aliasing and text anti-aliasing at the same time. But still, now it kind of improved. And then to make sure that there's no distortion on all the features and your layers, after check line anti-aliasing and text anti-aliasing under map properties, then also you still go to maps and go to properties, and then find layer properties. Click on it, and then you can see that here is a group called vector parameters, and there are also a setting that is called anti-aliasing. We also need to check this one so that by these two steps, we can avoid distortions on our live features and text on the map window. Now, if you zoom, now as we zoomed in or zoom out, that looks better. The lines look smoother than before. So that's all we need to do to improve the appearance of this space map. So now we can right click on this map and choose save it. And now let's go back to our slides. Here you can still refrain back to the slides if you are not clear on some of the operations or settings of these tools. And also remember, when you want to avoid distortions on the screen, there's 2 steps we need to do to. And now let's talk about more elements we can add to our layout design. So first, here I have some examples of well-designed layout, and you can see that to be informative, they not only contain those basic elements we added to our map layout in previous session, but also it has some statistical diagrams here to provide more information, not just about the map, but about the whole study area or the background information of the project, and also to demonstrate the physical location of their study areas. They also add some inset maps here to highlight those study area at a smaller scale. And so today, what we need to learn is how to add this diagram, these statistical diagrams, and those insert maps in our software to make a better layout. So here, first, we have a quick introduction on the insert maps. So insert map usually is a smaller map featured on the same page as our main map body, and usually they have different functions. Like we can use insert maps to show other information about our study area. So in that case, the scale of the inset map should be the same as your main map body. And also, if we want to highlight some details from our main map body, we can also use inset map to highlight some specific areas on the main map, like in this layout in the central. And finally, actually that is the most common use for inset map. That is simply to show the extent of your study area at a smaller scale, like this one here. So either way, as long as we can add multiple map objects to our layout, we can create inset maps as we want. And then it's about statistic diagrams in our software. So in SuperMap iDesktopX, here you can create 9 kinds of diagrams. Depends on what kind of data you want to show. Like if you simply want to show the categories or quantity of the data of a sort of data, you can use histogram or bar. Or you want to show the exact proportion, you can choose pi and ring. Or in some cases, you want to show the relationship between two data. Then you can use line or combo. Combo means a combination of histogram and line. And also you can create bubble diagram, scatter diagram, and also area diagram if needed. So in this case, we will create a simple one, but in your own project, you can design the kind of diagrams you want to use. And here's also a hint that to create such diagrams, you can use the attribute table of your original. You can use data in the attribute table of your original data set, or you can import or create some table data sets and use that table data sets to create these diagrams. Either way is okay. And so now we will go into our second demo. So to do that, so in this demo, we will create a layout to show the result of the suitable locations we find out for neo-Hawker-centric planning. And if you have remember what we did in the third session, actually we have those potential suitable locations in all regions. And so to show detailed information to the audience, we can create multiple layouts, and for each of them, we can show the result for one region. And so here we would create the layout for the East region. And so here, our main body should be our main map body should show the suitable location for neo-Hawker-centrics in East region, and then we would use a inset map to show to highlight the location of our main map body, or the extent of the main map body on the at the scale of the whole country of Singapore. And for both of them, we would use a map we saved in demo 1 as a base map. And then also we need to add an associated bar diagram to show the number of Hawker centuries by region. And so now let's go back to our software to do so. And so now look at our base map. So we have all the background information, but we don't have the region. Now we don't have the boundaries of the regions on this map. Also, we don't have suitable locations for it. So here, the first thing we need to do is to save our base map as another map so that we can do those modifications on it. So right click and choose save as map. And now we will save it as now first we will save it as result map and click OK. And then to show its result, we need to add two data sets on this map. And that is to say, oops, sorry. That is to say, we're going to data source and find Singapore. And so here we need to add regions, the data set of regions, and also the data set of suitable land. Select these two and right click, choose add to current map. And now it's ended. And now we will adjust their orders. So here, first for the regions, we will put it, so here we will put it on the top of subzones. But here, because we only want to show its boundaries, like we don't want to use we don't want full color, the fill color for it. So here we would change the style of it. Just right click and click their style and change it to system 1. That is only to show the boundary of it. And then we can change the color of it to be white. And now that's much more clear. And we can change its size. I will set to 0.3 here. And so now you can see as we zoom in, we can still see the boundaries. But then if we zoom really to a very detailed, very focused scale, now we only see the land use type. And then that's for the suitable locations. That is the result of our project. So we would put it at the top of all the polygon layers here. And then, as if you have remembered that there are four categories we used to select those suitable areas. And here we also want to show those land use types for the suitable locations. So here, put it on the top of all the polygon layers. And so here we would create a semantic map for it, a semantic layer for it. Right click on it and choose create semantic layer. Still, its unique value map. Use the default style and click OK. And now for its unique value expression, set it to land use description. So here you can see we only have 3 categories here. And now we can zoom in to show, to say it's okay to use this color, to use these fill colors. But also we want to highlight it with their outlines. So as what we did in previous session, we can select all of them in thematic mapping, and then click on the style button, and here click on line style and fill symbol, and click next. So here we will change line symbol for those features. Here, first change its size to 0.5, and then change the color to a very bright light blue, and click OK. Now we have highlighted the result. Now we have highlighted the result, and then we would delete the original layer of suitable land. And now zoom to the full extent. So here, let's first right click to save it. So that is the result map of the whole study area. And for our main map body, we want to highlight the suitable locations in the east region, which is on the very right here. So to do that, we could create another map and zoomed in, so it's easier for us to directly show it in the layout window. So here we would say we would choose save as map, and that is result map for east region, and click OK. And now just simply zoom in and put all those important features in the center. So these are so this is extent we would want to use to show our final final analysis result for the east region. And so here, right click and save this map. And now our final step before we go to create our layout, to create the layout, is to create a diagram to show the number of current Hawker centuries by region. And here in the data source, Singapore, under it, I have created a table data set for such kind of information. Here, you can right click to browse the attribute, and you can see here are the name of the region, and here the number of Hawker century. And we would create a bar diagram from it. And to do so, first we can close all of those windows. And then there are two ways to create diagrams in SuperMap iDesktopX. So here, the first is to go to Start tab, and under it, here you can see under Browse, here's a group called Diagrams, and under it, here's a list of all the kind of diagrams we can create it. And like here, we're going to create bar. You can click on bar. And another way to create it is to go to Workspace Manager, and under it, you can see here among all the nodes, here is one called diagram. You can right click on it here under new diagram. Also, there is a list of all the diagrams you can create it. So here choose bar, and it would open a window to create. And so here first, we will create a bar diagram first, and later you can try to create a pie diagram by yourself. You can use you can use the same data set to try that. So here, first, you can see that once we opened a window for diagrams, on the right, here is a window that is called diagrams. And under it, first we can set parameters we used to create this diagram. So first we need to choose which data set we are used here. So here, that is under the data source of Singapore. And the data set we use, as you can see, if you simply want to show the data of attribute, use attribute data in your original vector data sets, you can choose them and create diagrams for that. And here, we would use a we would use an independent data set, that is the number of Hawker Century, and click on it. And then for statistic field, click on this add button. And here we would use the number of Hawker Centuries and add it here. Now it looks very weird, but don't worry, because we haven't complete all the settings. Then on the group field here, we can set two group fields. The first one is how you want to divide the number of Hawker Centuries. So obviously we would divide it by the name of the regions. And then if there are different groups for your group field data, for your group record data sets here. So here you can set the group also as the name of the regions, so that for different regions here they would use different colors. That's how it looks like. And if you want to add more statistical field, it's okay. Simply click on add button and to add more. But because here, for this data set, we only have one meaningful column for one meaningful field for statistical field. So we only choose the number of Hawker Centuries here. And then we can set the styles for it. Like here, you can see the title is not that much meaningful. So here, under the diagram window, switch to the style tab. And under it, you can see that for view, you can change the category of the diagram you are now using. It's a very simple way to do so. And so here, we can set the title of we can set its title here. Just type in the title. That is number of Hawker Centuries by region, and click and press enter button. Now it would automatically change. And then here for the x-axis, that is region. And for the y-axis, that is number of Hawker Century. And also we can make them look smaller by change the font size for them if you wish. Maybe it's too small, so I will set it to 10. And once you complete all the settings, don't forget to save it. It's similar to maps. If you want, it's similar to maps. That if you want to add it to your layout window, you have to save it first. Then the software can know what kind of diagrams you want to add to your layout window. So here, right-click to choose Save and give it a name. And so now later we would create a layout including inset map and this diagram. And now we will take a 5-minute break. And now let me see, do you have any other questions? Well, if you want to use diagram created in Excel, then you have to save that diagram as a picture, and then you can add it to the layout as a picture. If you want to create if you want to use a data set in Excel to create the layout in SuperMap iDesktopX, then you can import the Excel spreadsheet into your data source and use that spreadsheet to create these diagrams as well. And if you don't know how to import Excel spreadsheet into the software, you can go to say the playback of our second session and the third session on how to import those. What is algorithm diagram mean? If you are curious about it, you can further explain it in questions and answers. Yes, you must use a table attribute to create a diagram. Either it's the attribute table of either it's a attribute table from such vector data sets or an independent table data set. Either way is okay. And 3 more minutes for the break. Use 2 different diagrams. It's okay, as you can add multiple map objects in your layout. If you have created multiple diagrams, then you can add all of them to your layout as well. You can see that once you save this diagram, then you can find it under diagrams. If there are multiple of them, then you can use all of them at the same time. Actually, if you want to use iPortal, I would recommend you to directly create your diagrams in iPortal instead, because really we would think that the visualization of diagrams is better in iPortal than you simply created this one. Created this one in the desktop software. Because in desktop software, once you saved it, you simply saved it as a picture. And even though you can export it, there's nothing you can do for it. But if you created a diagram in iPortal, because that diagram is directly connected to your data, and you can visualize your data on your map as well, so that once you select some of the features on your map, then you can make it associated with your diagram. So your diagram will change according to the selection as well. And so now let's begin. Let's restart it for our work. So now we have saved these diagrams. And our next step is to create a layout to show our final result here. In iPortal, actually not. I think in iPortal, it's also that you can create diagram from Excel. It's okay. You can use the raw Excel file if you want. And then you can also use the attribute table of your data set to create diagrams in iPortal as well. And for video map, that is what we're going to learn in the last session of our webinar. So that would be on June 8th. So into this session, we want to talk about video map. So here, now let's continue to create our layout. So I would also want to create it based on land scale or rotation. And so here I will do a quick work, as we have already learned the skills we need, most of the skills we need to create a layout. So here first, we need to add our first map, that is our main map body. So here we would select it to be our result map for East region and click OK. And now, oh, oops, sorry. So wait a second, let's go to layouts, focus on this map, and then zoom in a little. Okay. Now let me pan on it. And that's all for now. And then we would add another map, that is our inset map. So here, and here we will select the map as our result map and click OK. And then right click to focus on this map. We can zoom out. So now adjust it a little. And then okay, so we put it here. And then we can add our legend. And here, although we have two maps, but all of them use the same symbology and the same data set, so that we only need to create the legend for one of them. So here we would select this result map, and then go to object operations, and then create legend for it. And so here we can choose which layers we're going to create legend for them. Like the land use layer, it's only provide us with background information, but we're not only interested on all of those background categories for each of these lands, so we can so we don't have to choose it. And then click OK. And it looked very closet. So right click on it to open its property. So here we would change its column to 1 as well. And now change the shape of it. So here, as we didn't change the name of each of the columns here, so it looks a little weird. You can follow on what we did in the 5th session to reset the name of each of the layer so that it would look better in the legend. So here I will just keep it as it is now to save the time. Later on, you can spend more time on the design of the layout. And so now here we need to add the skill for each of this map. So to do that, first select it. Here we need to add 2 skills because our inset map and our main map body use different scales, it is obvious. If they use the same scale, then we can only create scale for one of them. We can create one scale for both of them. And so now, as we have inset map here, maybe it's more clear for you that why we have to select one of those map objects in the layout window first, and then we can select to create scales. Now, as we have multiple map objects here, if we don't select them, then the software would know we want to create a scale for which of them. Okay. Now, another thing here, as we said before, if we use inset map, usually we want to highlight on it where our study area is on this small scale inset map. So here in iDesktopX, if you want to do so, you can directly draw a rectangle on this inset map to highlight, like here, the superlocation in the east region. And to do that, go to object operations and find region, and select rectangle here. And then we can draw a rectangle to show the approximate extent of our main map body. So here you can see that we have a fill color for it, so we can't see the content under it. And on the right, it automatically opens the property of this rectangle we just draw. So here we can change its style symbol to symbol 1. So there's no fill color here. And then we can change its line style, make it to be like bright yellow, and then change the width of it like to be 0.3. And then here go to layouts to switch back to the pen tool. And deselect it. That's how we can use this very simple tool to highlight our main map body here. And then let's add our diagrams. Here it's also under the object operation. So click on it. And on the right, on the left, here we can see that among object drawing, we can draw diagrams. Click on it. And then you can say once you click on it, then you can draw the extent where you want to put the diagrams. So here, I will quickly draw one. And once we're finished, it would ask you which diagrams we want to fill in this area. So use the one we just created, and then we can adjust its size and location. And here's one thing you might have noticed. that for our map and legend project, objects, they have the bin. Once you created them in the layout, then here they have a dark frame for them. So it looks better on the layout. But for the diagrams, it doesn't have the frame. As you zoom in, it's easier for you to see there is no frame or edge on it with a different color. So if you want to make it coherent with the other objects, then you can draw a frame for it. And to do that, you can still to simply create a rectangular here. So just around it. And also here on the right, we can set its style. And that's how it looks like. Now we have added these new elements in our map. Then you also have to add a title for it and those basic information and the coordinate system and a north arrow for this whole map. And you can go back to our slides for a reference. Like in our slides, here it highlights all the procedures we made to create such a layout. First, to create our result maps, and then draw our diagrams and put them all together in the layout window. And here, if you are still confused about some of the operations, go back to our slides. There are more detailed steps on how to add all those elements. Like, don't forget, if you want to submit this screenshot, so then you need to add a north arrow and the coordinate system information for your map. And also here, the title for the layout and some other information. And that's all we need to know about how to improve your map. So in the last part of today's session, I will give you a quick introduction on the varied application of digital map in WebGIS. So to discuss it, our first question might be, what is WebGIS? So as you can see, GIS is a geographic information system. And at the beginning, it is only a desktop software or a local database. But with the development of computer technology and the internet technology, as well as distributed computation, so now we can combine GIS with all these other technologies, and so that WebGIS was introduced. And here you can see that different from our desktop software, which if you want to use it, you have to install it on your own computer, and all the data, almost all the data you used in desktop software need to store it on your own computer, or at least a database that you have access to. Here, if we use, and if you want to the others to look at the very detail of your work, then they would have to install the same desktop software on their computer as well. Or if you send your data sets or your workspace to them, they can't open it, right? And here, the WebGIS is a much simpler and user-friendly GIS system. So if you use that, most of your data and your analysis tools would stored in a GIS server, and you can let the users have access to your GIS server through the internet, and they can do all their operations on their web browser, and they don't have to install specific GIS software to see the data you stored in the GIS server. So it's much easier. Makes it much easier for ordinary people to have access to the data set, to GIS information. And so here, let me quickly answer one of your questions that is asked, can we do dynamic diagram? You cannot do dynamic diagrams in SuperMap iDesktopX, but if you use WebGIS, then it's okay for you to create dynamic diagrams for your data sets. And though we won't talk, although I won't, we don't have enough time to talk about the details of how to create dynamic diagrams in WebGIS system. It's okay. I will lead you to find the JavaScript codes about, or the applications about how to do that later on. So here, as you can see that WebGIS is quite simple. And also, if we use a if we use mobile app as our client, then we can also create a mobile GIS system as well. But that is different from WebGIS. So here today, I will only introduce you about WebGIS. So here, as I said before, with WebGIS, the first thing you can do is to publish your spatial data so that the others can have access to it. And they're not only be able to see the data sets, they can also do query or some digital process on it, and they can also visualize. They can also select part of them and visualize them. And also, if you have analysis services provided, if you provide analysis service to them, then they can conduct spatial analysis to those data sets as well. And so here are SuperMap products associated with WebGIS. So here, I'm not introducing you all the products that are associated, all the SuperMap products that is associated with WebGIS, because that's really a lot. So here, I'm only introduce you to those basic key products you might use, key products and basic products you might need to use if you want to try WebGIS. So the first one, that is the very essential one. No matter how you want to use it, use WebGIS, you must have a GIS server. And so here in SuperMap iDesktop products, in SuperMap products, the GIS server for it is called SuperMap iServer. And once you published your spatial data on this server, and then you want to do some some HTML development or etc. Here we have provided you with the development packages that is called iClient JavaScript. That package is used for 2D development. If you want to, if you are especially interested in the development for 3D scene or 3D data, then we would recommend you to use iClient 3D for WebGL. And then if you are working for an organization or a big company, usually you would want to, not you, maybe your organization would want to create a portal, a GIS portal for your a GIS portal, and the products you might could use is called SuperMap iPortal. So if you use that, you don't have to create a portal from the very base, step by step. That would provide you with the basic frame and functions of a portal, and it also enables you to develop it by yourself if you want. And then if you think, oh, like it's very hard to deploy a GIS server and then develop it all by yourself, but you are still interested on, oh, if you have complete all the work, then how it might look like, then you can go to our online platform. That platform is developed based on SuperMap iPortal and SuperMap iServer, as well as SuperMap iManager. And from it, you can see some examples how WebGIS application can be used and presented to ordinary people. And here are some simple examples on the application of WebGIS. Like this is how we can use it to visualize all those raw vector data with those very impressive, effective. And even you can like add some 3D effect to your 2D map, or like here to show these dynamic diagrams, and also a combination of 3D scene and diagrams as well. So here now I will show you the application of. So here I will quickly show you a simple application of our SuperMap iServer. So here, as you can see that during our break, I have started SuperMap iServer on my computer. And so now I can have access, I can access and manage it through my web browser. And so I can just go to open my web browser and then visit SuperMap, the manager of SuperMap iServer from the IP address and its portal and its port. So that would take a little longer. And now here, this is a home page for SuperMap iServer, and then I can go to the manager. And to use it, you need to log in as an administrator. And once we zoom in, you can see that on the home, we can see all the statistics for the use of the server. And also we can have clusters if we want, we can monitoring it or have a backup for the whole server. And if we have data to publish, then there is a quick publish button. But here I won't need to say that. So here we will simply go to the service manager. So here under it, you can see that we have a lot of service, a lot of kinds of service can be published through SuperMap iServer. Like basically the map service and data service, like to show your map or let the others to query the data. And then also, we can also have some processing automation service. And we would talk a little further about it in our next session, that is about processing automation in SuperMap iDesktopX. And also, it is also able to use machine learning to publish machine learning surveys. And also, here are some spatial analysis surveys, which is similar to spatial analysis tools we have learned in SuperMap iDesktopX. And here, we only give you a little hint on what it can do. If you're really interested in how to use machine learning or processing automation, or like publish 3D scene using SuperMap iServer, yes, they can do all of them, but unfortunately, we don't have enough time for them. But just let me know if you're interested. And in the future, we will design some course or training for them. Like here, for 3D scene, you can find that here are 3D scenes, 3D surveys. Once you publish them, you can let the others to say 3D scene you created and saved in your workspace. Or you can directly publish your 3D cache. Either way is okay. And we can also conduct some 3D network analysis as well. So here, under map service, I will simply show you here, my colleague have created a map similar to what we created today and published it already. And here, if we simply published it and the others go to visit it, it is only like what you can see here now. If we zoom in, now it still has a content control as we set in the software, but here we can only see the data. We cannot select them or see information from them. But then you can use our development package here, as we said before. For this 2D map, we would use iClient JavaScript for development. And once we have a further development and deployed in the server, then the others can access it through this address. Now it's a raw local address because I haven't set a domain name for the server. But in real project, you can set it, and then the others can access it through through the sorry, through the address you provided. And now you can see here as we zoom in, and now we can click on these features. And once I click on it, it will show the land use type of this specific feature. So this is a very, very simple development I have just done. It just takes less than an hour to do so. But if you are interested, in the future, we can have a further discussion on it about how to do all the deployment and development. And so now that's all for today. Don't forget to complete the quiz for this week. And also, our next session will be on June 1st. And the topic is about processing automation. And that is to create a model to automatically complete some of the spatial analysis and processing work. And so now you can scan this QR code to have access to the quiz, or on the other hand, you can click on this link here in your slides to have access to it. And also here, I will send you the information for the quiz. And later on, you can review. Oh, sorry. Later on, you can review our playbacks as well. So here are the links for the quiz and playlist. And now, wait me a second. Let me see your questions for it.